The smile on my mom's face was gone when I woke up one morning, and I realized far too late what had been taken from us. When I was a child, my mother's smile was the warmest thing in our home. It wrapped around you, softened the world, and made every heavy day feel lighter. But at some point, maybe on a winter evening, maybe in the pale quiet of a morning, something changed. Her smile wasn't the same anymore. Of course, I didn't notice it right away. It's hard to notice when the warmth you grew up with begins to fade little by little. But one day, when I finally stopped to think about it, I realized that the sparkle in her face had been missing for a long time. Her smile still lifted at the corners, yes, but her eyes didn't follow. The spark in her gaze, the one that always made me feel safe, was gone. When she looked at me, it was as if she was waiting for something, or afraid of something I couldn't see. Sometimes her smile looked like a pose, accidentally captured in a photograph. Stiff, misplaced, almost like someone else was wearing her face. It sounds like a small detail, I know, but you memorize your mother's smile without meaning to. And when that memory breaks, it shakes something deep inside you. I was 12 at the time, old enough to feel things I couldn't fully understand. My mother had become careful with her words, choosing them like someone afraid of saying the wrong thing. That tension tied me even closer to her. Strangely, I wanted her attention even more, because every time she looked at me with that unfamiliar smile, something cold curled inside my chest. Some nights, when I woke for water and walked to the kitchen, I'd find her sitting alone in the dark. When I turned on the light, she'd force that smile again, the smile that felt wrong. In those moments, an unexplainable anxiety rose in me. It felt like responding to that smile would somehow be a mistake, as if acknowledging it meant I understood something I wasn't supposed to. And maybe that's why, as you're listening now, you're remembering a moment of your own. A smile that changed, a warmth that disappeared. If you've lived something like that, you're not alone. There's someone here who knows exactly how frightening those small changes can be. And if you want to hear how all of that led into something much darker, stay with me, because we've only just begun. After her smile changed, the second thing I noticed was her footsteps. Before, the sound of her walking through the kitchen or down the hallway was familiar, a steady rhythm I'd known my whole life. People memorize the voices, scents, and footsteps of the ones they love. I had memorized hers too. But then, they changed. Her steps became careful, almost calculated, as if she were trying not to be heard, or as if she were hunting something inside the house, or being hunted herself. In the mornings, before school, I would watch her prepare breakfast. Her hands trembled slightly as she set the teapot on the stove, but she always tried to compose herself before turning toward me. And then came that familiar, empty smile. Once I asked, "Mom, are you okay?" She looked at me, a second too long, and said, "Of course. Why didn't you ask?" That mistake shouldn't have scared me. People misspeak all the time. But something about it chilled me. Why didn't I ask? She wasn't correcting me. She was expecting me. My father had been gone for years. I barely remembered his face. What we called home was really just the bond between my mother and me. If that bond weakened, all that remained were walls. so every small change felt like the air inside a room slowly disappearing. The window might have been open, but nothing fresh came in. Even breathing felt heavy. At school, my friends laughed and played, but my mind stayed at home. During class, I'd drift away, replaying the image of my mother sitting in the dark kitchen. Once during recess, someone asked, "How's your mom?" And without thinking, I said, "She's good, same as always." The moment those words left my mouth, I realized I was lying. She wasn't good. She wasn't the same. But who could I tell? Maybe you've told lies like that too. I'm fine. We're fine. While something inside you quietly breaks. If listening to this makes you remember the quiet moments in your own home, you're not alone. Some changes seem small, a slip of the tongue, a moment of fatigue, until the day you realize it was the beginning of something much bigger and much stranger. The third sign of my mother's change began at night. Our home used to be peaceful after dark. My mother would go to bed early. I'd go to my room, and the house would settle into silence. I used to love that silence. After the noise of school and crowded hallways, the stillness felt comforting. But one night, a different kind of silence settled in. A silence that didn't calm you. A silence that listened. Around 1 a.m, I heard the first whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind. Then I wondered if the TV had been left on. But it wasn't either of those. It was coming from inside the house. A faint, almost breath-like murmur. So soft you could barely tell if you heard it or imagined it. I got up and opened my door. The moment I did, the whisper stopped. The hallway was dark. My mother's door was slightly open, but no light came from inside. "Mom," I whispered. No answer. I returned to bed, pulled the blanket up to my nose, and the murmur began again. Not a word, not a sentence, just a broken attempt at speech, like someone searching for words but unable to form them. When morning came, my mother was in the kitchen as if nothing had happened. Part of me wanted to ask about the whispers, but another part, a deeper, older instinct, told me not to. She looked at me, her eyes locked onto mine, but they didn't see me. Her lips moved into that strange smile. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. "Yes," I lied. The lie sat heavy in my stomach. That evening, I dreaded nightfall. I knew the whispers would return. And they did. When I walked into the living room after school, I found my mother sitting perfectly still on the couch, too still. Her posture looked unnatural, like she hadn't moved in hours. Her eyes followed me, but the rest of her didn't. "You seem restless today," she said. Something inside me tightened. She didn't know why I was restless. Or did she? Maybe you've had nights like that too, when a voice you cannot place seems to wait for you in the darkness. If you have, then you already know where this is going, because sometimes the first strange thing you hear in a house is not the beginning of a mystery, it's the beginning of the end. That night, the third night, the whispers returned. I felt something inside me break. The silence in the house was heavier than before, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. My mother went to her room unusually early. She didn't say goodnight. She didn't even look at me. She simply walked past, closed her door, and vanished behind it, as if closing herself off from the world. After 1:30, the murmurs began again, but this time they were deeper, closer. They weren't coming from the walls anymore. They were coming from my mother's room. I froze at the edge of my bed. My heart was pounding so loud, I was afraid the sound itself would give me away. I don't know how long I sat like that, maybe minutes, maybe an hour. But something pushed me to stand. Not courage, something else, something like a pull. The hallway was dark as I stepped into it. A faint yellow glow seeped from under my mother's door. Somehow, that weak light made everything worse. If she was awake, why hadn't she come out? Why hadn't she spoken to me? When I reached the door, the murmuring stopped instantly. Silence fell like a stone. Then, "Don't come." It was a whisper, but the meaning hit me like a shout. It was my mother's voice, yet it wasn't. The tone was right, but something inside it wasn't human. As if another breath had slipped into her words. As if two voices were layered imperfectly on top of each other. "Mom?" I whispered. The door didn't move. There were no footsteps inside. No rustling, no breathing. Just that one command lingering in the air, almost sinking into the hallway. "Don't come." I stepped back. Not because I wanted to, but because something inside me recoiled the moment I heard those words. I returned to my room, but I couldn't bring myself to close the door. I didn't want to be trapped. Not that night. I didn't sleep at all. Sometimes I thought I saw a shadow pass by my doorway, but when I looked, nothing was there. Around 3 o'clock, the murmuring started again. This time scattered, broken, bouncing around the walls like something searching for a shape. Then a soft sound brushed against my door. Fabric, dragging. And then a quiet, muffled chuckle. That's when I finally understood. My mother hadn't stopped smiling by accident. Something was smiling through her. The next morning, my mother behaved the same as the day before. Quiet, distant, almost hollow. I sat across from her at the breakfast table. I tried not to look at her face, because every time I did, the voice from last night echoed in my head. "Don't come." My mother stirred her tea slowly. She didn't look at me. Even the gentle clink of the spoon against the cup sounded wrong, like it belonged to someone else. Then she turned slightly toward me. At that exact moment, the spoon slipped from her hand. When it hit the floor, she smiled. But the smile wasn't hers. Her lips curved up, but her eyes stayed empty, void of any warmth or recognition. Something inside me twisted. I grabbed my backpack, pretended to head for school, and walked straight out the door. But I didn't go. Instead, I circled around the yard and hid inside the old shed behind our house. Because something inside me knew my mother was not alone. This not alone wasn't the feeling of a relative visiting or someone standing in the hallway. It was the kind of instinct that bypasses logic. The sense that something other than human was sharing the house with us. Hours passed before I dared to return. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My mother's shoes were near the door. Her bag still hung on the hook. She hadn't left. I stepped inside cautiously. The living room was empty. Then I heard it. A sound from upstairs. Not a whisper. Breathing. Heavy breathing. I knew my mother's breathing pattern. I had heard it at night when she slept. But this breathing had 2 layers. Her normal breath and a second, soft, delayed breath beneath it, like a shadow following the sound. My heart pounded as I climbed the stairs. My mother's bedroom door was open, though last night it had been closed. A pale gray light seeped from inside. Not from a lamp, not from the window. It felt like it came from the room itself. When I stepped inside, I saw her on the bed, sitting upright. Her back was turned, her shoulders stiff, her hair draped down like a curtain. "Mom?" I whispered. Slowly, too slowly, her head turned. Not like a person turning, not with a natural movement of muscles and bones. Her neck turned first, then her face followed, as if something inside her was rotating her head piece by piece. And that smile, the horrible, stretched smile, tightened even further. At that moment it became clear. The smile on my mother's face was not my mother's. It was the smile of something imitating her. Something that used her face like a mask it hadn't learned to wear properly yet. And as she stared at me with that mask, I realized whatever was behind that smile was now aware of me too. When her face finally turned fully toward me, the first thing I felt was distance. Not the distance of space, but the distance of identity. The sense that the person you're looking at is no longer the one you know. Her smile was fixed in place, but empty, an expression without intention. Her hands rested on her knees, unmoving. Her posture was too straight, too still. She didn't shift her weight, didn't blink, didn't breathe in a rhythm that made sense. Her eyes remained locked on a single point for a full second before her pupils slid toward me. A delayed, unnatural movement. That delay terrified me. "Mom," I whispered again. The moment the word left my lips, I regretted it. I had spoken to something that wasn't my mother. Her smile widened, not naturally, but like skin being stretched by invisible fingers beneath the surface. Then she spoke. "You didn't sleep." The voice resembled hers, but something in it vibrated wrong. Two tones overlaying each other, neither fully matching the mouth they came from. "Why didn't you sleep?" I couldn't answer. Any answer felt dangerous. "Just," I muttered, unable to continue. Her neck tilted slightly, as if she were analyzing me. Then, a shadow moved behind her. Not behind her body, behind her face. A flicker, a ripple under her skin, like something shifting position inside her. When I blinked, it was gone. Her lips stretched again as that distorted voice said, "Come here." I didn't move. I couldn't. Approaching felt like handing myself to whatever was wearing my mother's smile. The silence inside the room felt unnatural. A silence without movement, without life. Even houses breathe at night, timber settling, pipes cooling, the faint hum of appliances. But here, nothing breathed. My mother's smile, wide and rigid, never changed, but something shifted inside her eyes. Her pupils dilated slowly, swallowing the light. As the darkness in her eyes grew, her face appeared paler, almost drained. "Come here," she repeated. This time the voice was closer to hers, but muffled, as if spoken from beneath water. Then a sound came from under the bed, a slow scraping, not loud but unmistakably intentional. My mother's eyes drifted toward the noise, but her head didn't move. Only her pupils did, sliding like black beads. "Mom," I whispered. She didn't answer, Her lips stayed frozen in that stretched smile. The scraping stopped. Then, a breath, not hers. It came from the floor near the edge of the bed, a faint inhale. My mother wasn't breathing at all. Then her voice returned, but her lips didn't move. "Come closer." The voice drifted from somewhere else in the room. "My mother wants to see you." That sentence stopped my heartbeat. My mother. As if the thing speaking wasn't her. It was something using her mouth without knowing what the word mother meant. I stepped back. The floorboard creaked loudly. My mother's eyes snapped to me instantly, and the darkness in them pulsed like something alive. Before I continue, if you're still here, watching this in a dark room, don't forget to like the video. It helps more people hear the rest of this story. And some stories shouldn't be heard alone. Because from this moment on, nothing in that room belonged to my mother anymore. Not her voice, not her breath, not even her smile. The loud crack of the floorboard seemed to split the air. My mother's eyes, those two expanding wells of darkness, snapped toward me with a hunger I had never seen before. It wasn't recognition, it wasn't love, it wasn't even anger. It was possession. Her smile widened even more, stretching toward the edges of her face. My legs trembled, but I still couldn't move. Not from fear, but because something felt watching my every breath. Then the sound returned. A soft click. Then a breath, but not like a normal inhale. It was a single, held breath. The breath of someone, or something, holding still in the dark. My mother's head tilted upward, her eyes shifting toward the underside of the bed. Not with curiosity, but with acknowledgement. Like she knew what was there. "Come out," a voice said. But it didn't come from my mother's mouth. It came from a corner of the room where nothing stood. Her lips weren't moving at all. The breath under the bed shifted, rising. Not crawling out, but rising as if lifting through the surface of the mattress itself. A shape appeared, a shadow peeling itself away from the fabric of the bed. I tried to step back, but then the voice came again. "Don't go." This time, the second tone beneath the word felt inches from my ear, as if someone whispered directly behind me. I froze, because in that moment, I understood something horrifying. There were two breaths inside that house, my mother's, and the thing that was copying her. I wanted to look away from my mother's face, but I couldn't. A pressure, not physical but psychological, held my chin up, forcing me to meet her eyes. Her smile was stretched impossibly wide, not out of joy, but out of mimicry. A mask pulled too tight. The shadow rising beside the bed grew taller. It wasn't crawling or stepping into view. It was emerging, as if the bed itself had birthed it. A thought twisted inside me. If this is real, how fragile is the reality I know? My mother's voice returned, but the sound rumbled deep within her chest, separate from her unmoving lips. "Don't come closer." Each word vibrated through the walls, as if the house itself was reacting. The shadow took a form, but not a complete one. It wasn't human, wasn't animal. It was something unfinished, alive, but not whole. It pulsed, shuddered, grasped the air with invisible movement. When its presence aligned with my gaze, every instinct I had screamed to run. But I was trapped, not by the creature, but by shock. Then, My mother's smile tore away. Her face fell into an expression of pure fear. Her eyes locked onto mine. Real, human, desperate. "Run," she whispered, her real voice, soft, breaking, barely alive. "Before it takes my hand." Her sentence never finished. The shadow touched her shoulder. Her body arched violently. Her eyes rolled upward. The twisted smile returned instantly, forcing itself across her face like a rebooted mask. And I still couldn't move. Time felt distorted. Moments stretched and twisted, as if I were sinking underwater. That monstrous smile, the one that belonged to something beneath my mother's skin, tightened again, lifting her cheeks in a grotesque curve. I tried to take a step forward, but my feet were anchored to the floor. Something in the room had noticed me. The shadow leaned toward me. It had no eyes, yet I felt its attention like heat on my skin. A realization settled into my mind with crushing weight. This thing wasn't trying to take my mother. It was trying to use her to reach me. That's why she had begged me to run. Her voice, her real voice, broke through again. "Don't come closer. It'll take you too." Tears streamed down her face, but that twisted smile stayed frozen, mocking her pain. Deep inside myself, something snapped. I cannot leave her. I forced myself forward, one step, then another. The shadow swelled, its shape trembling like smoke caught in a wind that wasn't there. Pressure filled the room. My ears rang. My vision pulsed. Something reached toward me. Cold, heavy, familiar in a way I couldn't explain. My mother screamed, a raw human scream. "Stop! Don't touch her!" The darkness ignored her. It leaned closer. My mother's eyes locked onto mine, filled with the last flicker of the woman who raised me. Then the shadow faltered. For a split second it staggered. The smile on my mother's face cracked like porcelain. Pieces of it fell away. My mother gasped, "Step back. It chose you. Don't let it take your smile." I didn't understand what she meant, not then. But when I looked into her eyes, I finally realized. This thing entered people through their smiles. A false smile was a door it knew how to open. And as the shadow reached toward me, its presence brushing the edges of my vision, I felt that door beginning to open on my own face.